Sean, could you just bring us up to date on your injury situation, please?
Matty Taylor's back in the building, not training yet, obviously had a minor operation, but he's back in now on his journey back to fitness with plenty of rehab work. Stephen Reid's had a week's training with us, so he comes back certainly into the squad. Dean Marnie, we got him off the pitch last week, which was good. He got his sort of 75 minutes in, which means he's got that under his locker, in his locker, and then had a nice week's training, so he's fully fit, if you like, or come back to total fitness. Sam Vokes had another good week, not ready yet, but he's had another good week on the grass even more, joining in bits of sessions with the first team and bits of sessions with the development team. And I think they're all more or less coming back to what you call full fitness.
A lot of fans will be wondering about Big Sam because he's been out a long time. Any idea when we might see him back in action?
No, there's no dates on it. You know, I made it clear a long time ago at the beginning of his journey back to fitness that there wouldn't be any dates on it. He'll not be getting pushed from me, that's for sure, until he's really ready. And that'll be for the medical team, the science team, and of course himself. You know, he's a mature man, and you know, when he feels ready, he'll know. I had a few long-term injuries myself, and you know, you really know it within yourself when you're properly right.
You were speaking to David earlier. There still seems to be that belief.
David Jones?
David Jones.
Fantastic, David Jones. I bet he was very articulate and very well spoken.
You've been grooming him.
Your words, interesting terminology. I'll make it clear I haven't. I don't know what happened there. I'll make it clear I have not been grooming him. I've been speaking to him about his professionalism. It's fair to say nothing more. Made that clear. Thank you.
He talks about the believer in the camp despite the situation at the bottom of the table. Do you still detect that?
Absolutely. You know, what's not to believe in? You know, at the end of the day, we... 1 and a bit years ago, some of them boys, including Dave Jones, were joining us on a free transfer. He's now playing in the Premier League. He's had a taste of it before at Wigan, and now he's in there again. So, you know, a lot of them, if there is negativity, I'm not sure it is. I think there's a balanced view, I think, from most, outside of what's going on at Burnley Football Club. Most give a balanced view of our challenge. And, you know, I think we work in an honest environment. I think there's a positivity about the environment and the culture we set here. But I must make it clear, it's not, I've said it before, it's not built on bluff and blag. It's not like, oh, look, we're in the Premier League and everyone happy. Not at all. The players here are motivated to win games, so am I. The fans know that here. We got 26 wins in a promotion campaign last year. So they know we're used to winning, and they know the demand is there to win. They also know we've gone up to a very, very high level, arguably always spoken about as arguably the best league in the world. You know, our resources are a challenge in doing that and getting into that situation. And it's a challenge for the team purely because it's a situation where they're developing, learning, progressing and trying to win all at once. You know, and that is a tough ask, but it's an ask and a challenge that we want.
Must be difficult for them coming in on a Monday morning after a defeat at the weekend, which has become a regular occurrence in that first 10 games. You're picking them up, but who picks you up?
Comments like yours about grooming always pick me up. Reality is I've been in it all my life, and all my own journey has not always been plain sailing. You know, sometimes you're in the bottom of the valley to really appreciate the view from the top of the mountain. I think that was Ed Goover. I'll ask Jonah, he'll know. But, you know, you can understand the thought of it, you know, and by no means are we at the bottom of the valley, because, you know, it's a great journey for us. It's a terrific ask for us. But there's no, I've said it before, I think my broken record, I'm not being naive here. I understand the challenge. I also understand my challenge by that as manager. My and other managers' jobs depend on winning games. I'm not naive to that either. But there has to be a balance to how this club goes about it. I understand it totally. I've mentioned many times recently, people have said I was naive, and I also said if I had £30 million to spend, I would spend it. We haven't. And if we did have, do you know what? It'd probably ruin the club. So it's important to remember the challenge against the realities. And there are some realities at Burnley Football Club that have to be looked after. You're not only a manager in my view, you know, every manager has their way of managing. Mine is that you're also a custodian forever, whatever period, you know, is necessary. I was like that, my thinking at my last club, and I'm like that at this club. I have to manage, I have to get the group to win games. I totally understand that. Behind that, there has to be balance to that thinking and make sure the club is in a very good place. Trust me. In my 2 years here, this club is in a whole better place than it was 2 years ago when I walked in. It was 16th in the Championship.
Is it any great surprise to you that the 3 promoted clubs at the moment are in those bottom 3 positions?
I think many managers, including Steve Bruce, who I speak to now and again and got a lot of respect for, and like him as well. I think they think, from their experiences of it, it's getting harder for teams that promote from the Championship to the Premier League. They tell me the gap is getting wider because even teams like Hull, we've seen what they've spent this year. Money's not everything, but it gives you more power in the market. It gives you a better resource to go and get out players worldwide now, not just European-wide. And it's not for the thirst of any of these managers, by the way, I don't think, overlooking English players. It's just you need more. You need more to choose from. That's certainly how I look at it. It doesn't bother me where the players are from. It's how many I can get to choose from. If I need a midfielder, if there's only 4 or 5 in our market in England, there might be 15 if we go into Europe. So they tell me it's getting wider. They tell me it's getting harder. The league at the moment is showing that. You know, even QPR have put resources into their system for years now, and Harry's done a fantastic job dealing with all of that last year to get them back in the Premier League. Even he's, saying it's a big challenge, and they have put some resources in. I'm not suggesting we haven't, but we've put the ones that we can in. If they're all telling me it's getting more difficult, then I'm sure it is.
And what do you do on a weekly basis as the results have gone against you? Are you racking your brain thinking, do I change personnel, do I change formation? Are you trying everything from A to Z?
Well, kind of. You have a belief in how you work and you have a belief in how the team should operate. But of course, being flexible within that, it's a given. You want to win games, and you've got to, if you always do what you've always done, you always get what you've always got. So if we continue to just do that, then we know that it needs flexing and changing, because so far it hasn't brought the wins that we want. So it's important that we flex it, change it, without going radical change. I think you don't get promoted in the fashion we did last year without there being something there that is effective. So it's about how we can mould that and twist it and add to it to make it more effective against a better market, because there's no two ways about that. It certainly is that. There's a higher quality, there's a higher physicality, there's less weak links in the teams that you're playing, both individually and as a team and tactically. So it's trying to format all of them things. It's something that I'm used to. It never goes out of mind for a minute. As I suggest, my words are not naive. Don't think there's not 1 minute of the day when I wake up and I just think, need to win. That's my job. So it's always there. And then it's just challenging yourself, my staff, the players, to find that way to make it win.
And when you look at the next block of games, the Hull, Stoke, Villa, Newcastle, QPR, followed by the Cities and the Liverpools, do you think to yourself, it's got to happen in the next 4 or 5 games?
It doesn't have to, but what you'd suggest is that there's some of them teams you mentioned are a different sort of look in the Premier League than we've just been to the Emirates, than Chelsea, than Man United. Different end of the market. I mentioned that after the Arsenal game. No disrespect to us at all. The fact is, they've been doing this for a long time. They've been building, they've been throwing resources at it. Arsene Wenger, fantastic afterwards. I had half an hour with him and Steve Bold. He had a wry smile when I told him the kind of wage bill we've got and the resources we've got. He found that quite interesting, let's say, against his own. So that market's a different one. The teams you mentioned, they'll all be fighting, they'll all be wanting, they'll all be demanding that they're in the Premier League, and they'll see us, we see them. Equally, I would imagine, as teams that are probably going to find that challenge within the Premier League season to stay in there, to do well and whatever. And they're games that you... It's like I say, it's hard to define having to take points, because we all know that points can come from anywhere. But it's fair to say if you're not at the very top of the league, then there's a better chance for a team like us. If we're looking to take points from teams, there's a better chance playing teams who are not at the very top of the league.
It's got to come from somewhere, hasn't it? That's the point I'm making.
Yeah, but as I suggest, they can come. Results can win. I think it was the beginning of last year. Cardiff beat Man City. And I think Man City last year lost 3 out of their first 10. It was a power like Man City. So even they can't guarantee results. We saw that last night. Tremendous club, amazing manager, amazing players. Can't guarantee results in every game they play. Chelsea last night against Maribor. You'd fancy them any day. We played them. Thought they were absolutely off the planet on that night. So, results come in many different ways. You've got to be open-minded to think you can get results from anywhere. All we're all suggesting, I'm sure you agree, is there's a higher chance against certain clubs rather than others.
And in terms of January, are you already thinking not far away now? Do you have plans? Do you have spending targets that you might want to go out?
All the structure that I've mentioned, the thing that we were behind with, our sort of supersonic journey last year into the Premier League. So all the things that were should be in place and could be in place at other clubs who have been building slowly but surely over the years weren't in place. So we've had to have an unbelievable transformation in our thinking within a kind of 3-month window, including the recruitment structure, the amount of people we can get on recruitment, the recruitment of what areas, widening our base, to all give us more information to hopefully improve the playing side of things. You know, we brought in players we think that can demand, we brought in players that can challenge. We also want to bring in players that is fair to say that almost a given that they improve you. That's been the challenge. Some of the ones we went in for in the summer, the numbers were unbelievable, and that's championship players, I must state. You know, top end of the championship players earning unbelievable money, way more money than we pay in the Premier League, and their clubs far richer than us usually because of the owners, asking for astronomical fees that this club just decided couldn't do.
So there's no regret with you or even at board level that maybe a little bit more money should have been spent in the summer?
A little bit wasn't the case. A little bit wasn't enough this summer. Trust me with it. You're not talking about adding $1 million or $2 million. You're talking about tens of millions to get high quality players. There was 3 players we were in for in the Championship, and if we got them 3 players, it was over £20 million was expected for 3 players in the Championship, and only 1 had ever played in the Premier League. So that's where the market is. It's well documented, I think. The McCormack one was the biggest shift in the market because everyone suddenly presupposed, well, if that's Championship to Championship, if a Premier League club come in for us, no matter whether it's Burnley or whoever, then we raise the bar. So timing was probably unfortunate in this market this year. If you look at Charlie Austin, the money got from him last year compared to this year, radical difference.
Just for the record, you coached David Jones.
Coached him,
just
thank you. That's a much better thank you. Did you hear that, everyone? Yeah, we got that. Good. Coached him, thank you.
Thanks for your time.
Sean, when you mentioned your chat with Arsene Wenger, well, did he give you any sort of advice or tips, or was he just saying?
No, he was really
impressed by how you.
Well, I've known Steve Bold a long time from my days at Watford. We were youth team managers together. Oh well, obviously him at Arsenal, me at Watford. And we've always got on now and again. We used to have a coffee and just chat about football and young players, development, etc. And then after the game, he invited me in. We had a good chat about everything, you know, about how he feels about young players, about his side, about the performance, about some key facts he knew about us. We've had as many, well, last week, up to that point, we'd had as many key passes into the box as they had. We'd had as many final third good moments of play as they had. The defining moment, we haven't got Sanchez, who seems to have a regular habit of popping it in the net. That would be helpful. He didn't want to loan him to us, it was fair to say. And just all the things, you know, a very wise, fantastic manager offering a young manager some, not really advice, just bouncing off ideas, bouncing off stories, asking about some of my players, me asking about some of their players, because I knew some of them as younger players. Asking about the market, our financial base, what we're trying to achieve. You know, all of them things. Very open, I must say. I really enjoyed it. It was good for me as a young manager.
Are you concerned about the sort of spectre of these unwanted records looming? It's now 10 matches without really.
It's only a story. You know, I mean it sincerely. It's a story for someone to write about. You know, it's easy journalism. Really, if you think about it rationally, you get one, you know, it doesn't save the world. It doesn't save Burnley's world to get one win. It doesn't really change that much, other than you need to get another one. And then when you got 2, you know what's going to come, don't you? You have to get 3, and you know you get 3, you know what's going to come now, don't you? You have to get 4. When you get 4, it's still enough, you need 5. So it's never ending. Of course, it would be great to get that win because it takes that story away. That's the only reason why. You know, our mentality will be win, move forward, prepare, try and win the next one. It always has been since I've been in management. It was as a player, if I'm honest. That was my mentality. Win against the big powers, win against the smaller clubs, win in a cup game. The next one's come around pretty quick. You've got to be prepared to win again.
Just to go on the financials which you mentioned, when you say if you spent 30 million it could ruin the club, is that because the expectation of the wages you'd have to pay to keep that going? Exactly,
you're stuck in a very awkward predicament. If the club came along and said here's £50 million in fees to spend, you need the support base of them wages. And of course if you're now carrying them wages arguably for 3 to 4 years, then it can end in real trouble. And it's very hard for me as a manager. Don't forget, I'm designed to win games. My whole thinking as a manager is to win football matches. And it's hard to balance it, but there has to be a balance. And I get it. I totally understand it. Because, you know, last year we had to sell Charlie Austin. The club made a decision they had to sell him. That was 1 year ago. And now it's got a chance to not be in that position for many years, as long as things are used wisely. But I make it clear we still want to compete. Of course we do. We're in the Premier League. You don't want to be a sob story. You want to be in there competing. You want to be trying to win. You want to be developing players into this league in order to stay in it and achieve things. It's just very, very difficult.